Hello everyone, welcome back to Think Outside the Board and the Crowdfunding Roundup. In this video series, I take a look at everything that's launched on crowdfunding during a given week, a period that is a Wednesday through a Tuesday, and then from all of those campaigns, all of those games, I hand select the ones that I think are the most worthy of your time, attention, and potential backing. And so in this period, I have selected a total of 5 different campaigns for us to look at. As always, my videos are tabbed, so if you scroll over the play bar, you'll see divisions in the video, each one focusing on a different campaign, and if there's something specific that you're looking for, you can just go right to that section. Also, I have links to all of the campaigns that I'm talking about, so if you go down into the description section right below, you can look at the names of the campaigns, the games, and then click on the link to the right of it, and it will take you right to that particular campaign. The best way to support this channel at this time is simply to like, subscribe, and sign up for future alerts. In the next several months, I'll be launching more kinds of content, including a new and revamped teach and review series, and I'll also be live streaming games, focusing on Euros, heavy Euros, as well as medium light to medium heavy Euros, campaign games, legacy games, dungeon crawlers, and solo games. So the best way for you to keep abreast of what's coming and to be alerted when that content launches is simply to like and subscribe. Without any further ado, let's take a look at the first of these 5 campaigns that I'll be featuring today. That is Apex Legends, the board game. Now, Apex Legends, the board game is being published by Glass Cannon Unplugged, which is a fairly new publisher. Let me just double check this, but to my knowledge, they've only published one game so far, and that was Frostpunk, the board game. But they do seem to be carving out a space adapting video games to board games. So from everything I know of Frostpunk, I still haven't gotten my copy to the table yet, but people seem to be really liking it. If you go over here and you click on it on Board Game Geek, it's got an 8.4. That's a pretty solid score. And I'm very excited to table this one myself. And then Dying Light, the board game, you can see there's no year here because this is something they're going to be doing after Apex Legends, which means it'll be the 3rd in their video game series. Now, the negative score here is only from 2 ratings. This game is not produced yet. It's not even, there aren't prototypes for this. So anyone who's rating this right now just has some kind of chip on their shoulders. But I have to say, as a huge fan of Dead Island, the video game series, and Dying Light, I'm really looking forward to this campaign. I haven't decided yet if I'm personally going to be backing Apex Legends. I may not, because it's an arena battler, and that's really not my kind of game. But from everything that I've experienced and know about Glass Cannon Unplugged, I'm very impressed by them. And I think another thing that's a positive for this, they're producing a big, expensive game here, but they've already done it once with Frostpunk, the board game. And they've adapted a video game to board game. They've done it successfully. It's well liked, and they delivered it successfully. This is something that it's delivered. People have it. They've been playing it, which means that as they do Apex Legends, they may also be doing development work on Dying Light, but this is the only game that they're actually going to have in production. This isn't the case of a publisher with a lot of big miniatures games where they've got, 5, 6, 7 in the pipeline with crowdfunding campaigns done, and then they're juggling the production of all of these. This will be their sole focus for a period, at least until, Dying Light gets launched as well. And I don't think that's happening right away. So that's a very, very good sign for this. That means that's where all of their production energy is going to be focused. Now, this has a funding goal of $241,000. They're currently at $545,000. So it's a healthy campaign. They're doing well. It's going to happen. And as we can see down here, this is going to, the campaign is going to end on June 8th. Let's see, down here, if we look at the pledges themselves, it shows that they are planning on delivering this in June of 2024. So with this one, because there are a lot of pledges and the content of those pledges has a good degree of variance in them, We're going to take a look at those pledges, and I'm going to break them all down for you. Before we do that, we're going to watch the video. And before we do that, I'm going to show you a few things in this campaign as we scroll down. So these are all the pledges that we're going to come back to. This expansion, it's a character expansion. It's called Loba. It is Kickstarter exclusive, which means that, first of all, anyone that backs at any pledge is going to get this free character expansion. And if you see this later out at retail versions of this, they will not include the Loba expansion. So it will be exclusive to Kickstarter, comes with every pledge, but your only way to get it is to pledge. If at any point, as you're reviewing this on your own, after you watch my video, when you go to look at this on your own, if anything gets confusing to you, you can always come back to this base pledge comparison and see the various things that are included in the various pledge levels. And if you click this, it's going to give you a whole spreadsheet, wait for it to come up, that details everything that are in all the different pledges. So this is just a really good resource to know about, and it'll help you navigate the pledges. Now, let's kind of go down a little bit further. One thing I wanted to talk about are these things you're seeing here underneath the characters. These are called dioramas, or they're calling them dioramas. And they're only included in certain versions of the game. And that's a lot of what's kind of subdividing the various pledge levels. They'll do things like they'll add a bunch of new content in, but they'll take out these dioramas for certain pledges, and then the next pledge level will add them back in. So a lot of the pledge level that you decide to back at will be determined by whether or not you want these dioramas. They also have these pretty cool 3D modular terrains that you can use to construct, the terrain for various scenarios, and it gives a lot of variability to the basic setup to the scenarios. Now, yeah, here's a look at that diorama. So it's going to slot your character, your miniature, a dial, some components and things like that. And then here's another look at that modular 3D game board. If we go down a little bit further, it's going to talk about gameplay. Now this is an arena battler, so you're going to be running around fighting other people in different modes. And so they're just talking about the things that you normally would do, like moving, interacting, using and attacking, your unique ability and action cards, and instant and reaction feat cards. Okay, now that we've taken a look at that and given you a basic idea of the game, especially knowing that it's an arena battler, let's take a look at the video here.
From a world shaken with conflict comes a ruthless blood sport where only the best stand a chance to survive. Do you have what it takes to become a legend? Apex Legends, the board game, is a hero shooter for 2 to 4 players, which brings the thrills and kills of the smash hit video game to the tabletop. Designed to make fans of Apex feel right at home, the modular system also provides a fascinating and intricate tabletop experience for anyone willing to give it a try. With intense tactical team versus team skirmishes and a multitude of available play modes, including versus, solo mode, and co-op, Apex Legends, the board game, follows the philosophy of one rule set to rule them all. The core box includes all the elements required to set up a visually stunning board, with modular buildings, walls, and objects representing well-known locations from the video game. With 4 transparent miniatures representing the ring, the fighting arena is gradually reduced in size, rounding up the legends for the final confrontation. It's all about the legends after all. Each one comes to the board game with a dedicated miniature and a personalized diorama, designed to properly display what makes each of them special. The diorama itself serves a practical purpose, providing the players with a convenient means of storing their cards during play. The trademark of any legend, their awe-inspiring powers. These appear in the game in the form of cards, with some tactical and ultimate abilities represented on the board through the use of miniatures. Hungry for loot? Choose an entry point on the board and start off with a bang, but be prepared to face the consequences of your decision. Amass firepower through the use of supply bins spread across the map, and take advantage of a vast array of fully upgradable weapons to take down your enemy with deadly efficiency. Need more? The next supply drop might offer just what you need to face your next target and fight to the finish, Apex style, with all the mechanics you know from the video game. Things not going to plan? Dad death is not the end. Choose a respawn beacon and get back into the action. The Pantheon of Legends is awaiting your arrival. Back the project campaign for Apex Legends, the board game now, and get ready to fight for the title of champion.
So I really like the fact that their little diorama is also kind of a player board in terms of, being able to put your cards on it, hold to your cards. I think that's pretty cool. All right, let's take a look at the individual pledges here. So let me just go down and get the stuff on the left lined up with the stuff on the right so we can kind of see the components as we're looking at the pledges. Okay, so here they talk about the difference, right? It says you can choose between gamer pledges and deluxe pledges. And the gamer pledges are these three: the gamer pledge, the jump master pledge, and the apex pledge. Now, these are more focused on giving you more gameplay, which means that the gamer pledges will not include the dioramas. These pledges below, the core pledge, the full team pledge, the gameplay all-in pledge, and the solo all-in pledge will include those dioramas. Now, knowing that, let's go down here. Let's look at, I think they're showing us the gamer ones first. Those are the ones that do not include the dioramas. But we're going to go and look at the cheapest pledge, not including this one, which is called the display pledge. This one's $49, and it only includes a poster. So this is purely just for a poster, no game, just a poster. But if we go down a little bit further, we've got our first actual pledge for the game. That is the core pledge, $86, and it's going to include the core box, that Loba expansion that we talked about, which is included with every pledge, and then all of the stretch goals. So this is the most basic pledge that you can get right here. Let me just see shipping while I'm doing this. So shipping on this, okay, for this core pledge is going to be in the United States, 25 euros, which is not cheap. Let's see. All right, so that's 27. I'm just gonna write these down. 27 for that. What else do we have? 32 and 40, which is going to be 34 and 43. Okay. So that means with that shipping, this is now a $103 pledge. Okay, and that is just for the core box. Now, as we go down here, we see the first gamer pledge. These are the pledges that do not include the diorama. So as we can see down here, this also includes the board game. It also includes the Loba expansion. It's added in this full team expansion, but the dioramas are backed out. So you're not going to be getting a diorama at that pledge level. And if I go up here, we can see the first of these. This is what that looks like. Okay, and the full team expansion is basically a 5 to 6 player or character expansion. So in the base game, you're going to have 4 characters. If you get the full team expansion, you'll have 2 more for a total of 6. Then you could play it at the full player count. You could also play 3-on-3 games. All right, so that's everything that's in this. That's the first of those pledge levels that does not include the diorama. Now, if we keep going down a little bit further, we've got the full team pledge. These are all of the same things in that pledge level shown above, meaning the full team expansion. But for this pledge, the dioramas are added back in. And these are not just the dioramas for the 4 characters in the base game. These are all 6 dioramas because they include the 2 dioramas for the 2 characters in the full team expansion, which means that the difference in these pledge levels, this is 124. This is 92, so you're looking at a $32 difference to get those 6 dioramas. Okay, and that is the full team pledge, which as we go down here into the pledges that actually include the dioramas, it's the second one here. Okay. If we keep going down a little bit further, we've got the Jump Master pledge, and that's going to add in some more items, but take the dioramas back out again. And so the expansions that it adds in are Squad 1 expansion and Squad 2 expansion. These are just more character packs. Each of these expansions includes 3 more characters. And that Jump Master pledge is back up here in the gamer pledge because this does not include the dioramas. Okay? Now, for the third and final pledge that does not include dioramas, this is the Apex pledge. And so as we go down a little bit more, this is the next one in price level. What this adds in, because you've got the game, the Loba expansion, the full team expansion, both squad expansions, but now you've added in the supply miniatures expansion. So that means various supplies in the game, instead of being tokens and things like that, will actually be miniatures as well as a solo co-op expansion. So this, if you want to play the game co-op or you want to play it solo, you want to make sure you're getting this solo and co-op expansion. Otherwise, you can't do that. Now, while it's true that this is only included at this $172 pledge level and above in certain pledge levels, there are things that you can add on, and we'll take a look at that before we finish taking a look at Apex Legends. So the solo and co-op expansion is something that you could add on to a cheaper, earlier pledge. Now, as we continue going down, we've got the gameplay all-in pledge. So this is going to take us back down to the deluxe pledges where dioramas are included. And this is the third of 4 of these deluxe pledges. So in this one, you've got the dioramas added back in. You've still got Squad 1 and Squad 2. You've got the supply miniatures expansion. They've also added in card sleeves and a playing mat. However, they have backed out of this pack the solo and co-op expansion. So that is not included in the gameplay all-in pledge. If we go down a little bit further to the final pledge, the solo all-in pledge, this is everything that's in this pledge, the gameplay all-in, plus the solo and co-op expansion. So you've got all of that previous stuff, including the playing mat and the card sleeves, but now you have the solo and co-op expansion. And so this one here, $274, plus shipping for this level is $43. So you're looking at a grand total of about $317 for this pledge. Now, as I mentioned before, some of these things can be gotten, this is just a group pledge here, but some of these things can be done through add-ons. So as we go down here, let's take a look at what is available as an add-on. Because maybe you want some things that are, packaged in with the higher level pledges, but not everything. You want to kind of pick and choose. So here we've got the add-ons. If you want to add this solo and co-op expansion to any pledge level, it's going to be 20 euros. I'm not going to do the conversions for all of these, but just let's give you an example. Usually dollars are couple bucks more, so it'd be 25 in terms of US dollars. If you want to add the playing mat on, same deal, 20 euros or 25 US dollars. The supply miniatures expansion, which is going to give you miniature versions of various supplies around the board, 25 euros. Let's just do it since we're there, or 27 US dollars. You've got these squad expansions, which are 30 euros each, or 32 US dollars. The card sleeve pack is 15 euros or 16 US dollars. This big legendary storage box, 50 euros or 54 US dollars. And this is Kickstarter exclusive. I don't think there is any pledge level that comes with the legendary storage box. So if that's something you want, a storage system to fit everything, you will need to add this on to any pledge. Yeah, nothing comes with that. And then you've got that poster. And this, again, was its own pledge level if you just want the poster. And I believe if you want it with the pledge level, you'll just need to add it on. But as you go to back these, if I was to back these and I clicked on it and I clicked continue, like, let's just say, like that, if I click a continue, it's going to show me what I'm pledging, and then it's going to give me a list of all these other items that I can then click to add if I want to add that. So that's how you would do that. It used to be that you would do that more in a pledge manager, but Kickstarter is quite often, and companies quite often now are having the ability when you pledge something to choose your add-ons right at that moment, which is pretty cool. All right, so that is everything for Apex Legends. I'm really excited for Glass Cannon Unplugged as a publisher. I'm really excited to get Frostpunk to the table. I've heard nothing but good things about it, and I'm super excited for Dying Light when they launch the board game version for that. As far as Apex Legends goes, I really want Glass Cannon to succeed and do well because it seems like they're doing a fantastic job. But I don't think that this is really the game for me. I don't play shooters that often, and when I do, I like them as video games. And so, this kind of like, team shooter as a board game probably isn't my thing, but it may be yours. And I think if it is yours, you should look at this because Glass Cannon is setting new standards as they get going here in the board game industry. Okay, so that is the first campaign. The second one is Evolution: Another World. And I want to talk a little bit about the history of Evolution. Now, if we go over here, we can see many different entries here for Evolution. The first one, I believe, let's see. Yeah, this is a completely different game, this Evolution. The first that was a remake. This is the first one we want, Evolution: The Origin of the Species. So this game came out in 2010. Here we go. And it was published by Wright Games. And then it was relaunched in 2014 by North Star Games Studios. So they bought the license, and they have published several different versions of Evolution. They've also done a ocean version, a water version that's different kinds of gameplay. It's called Oceans. And then a couple years ago, this company, Wright Games, got the license back, and they started to produce their own version of the game in association with Crowd Games, the publisher that is behind this one. So they put out this version of Evolution like a year or two ago, and it was called Evolution: New World. And that was the original publisher's kind of updated version of the game, working with Crowd Games and kind of going around everything that North Star Games had done in the meantime with their own license of the game. Now they've come back again, and they're printing Another World. So this is a second version of this game. It is not an expansion to New World. It is a separate version, and it's a little bit more simple and a little bit more family friendly. So if you are looking for a new version of Evolution that's a little bit more family friendly, stays very true to the original version of the game, and is not associated with the North Star Games versions of the game, then this would be the game for you, Another World. Personally, for me, I like heavier games. I like more complex games. So the version I'd actually like to get my hand on is New World, which is not available through the Another World campaign. I think I'd even like to get my hands on the North Star Games version. But this campaign is for this new version that's a little bit more family friendly, a little bit more accessible. So they are behind Deep State New World Order, Winter Queen, City of the Great Machine. First campaign here was canceled, second campaign happened, and then these two new versions of Evolution. And we're looking at the new one, Another World. Okay. So now that we know all that, the funding goal of this project was 20 grand. They're currently at about 85 grand, so it is funded, it's happening, and the campaign's going to end on June 7th. For that matter, as we go down, we can look and see the delivery date that they're targeting for this is February 2024. And we'll come back to this in a minute, but as you can see, there are basically two versions of the game. There's the retail version here, and then the special edition. So if you do want to back this game, you have some very simple choices. You're just going to be choosing between these two versions. Before we do that, however, let's take a look at their video.
Humankind has accumulated plenty of knowledge about the way evolution works on Earth. Various species of living beings adapt to the ever-changing environment. They acquire defensive and offensive traits. Other worlds may have completely different creatures, but the laws of evolution should also apply there. And it's time to learn more about it. Welcome to the world of magical creatures. Here, magical sources create pure energy, and amazing creatures accumulate this energy to undergo the wondrous process of transmutation. However, there is not enough energy for everyone, and the struggle between magical beings for a chance to transmute never ends. Evolution: Another World is a new standalone game in the well-known Evolution series, created more than 10 years ago by a biologist, Dmitry Konore. Most of the bright and whimsical illustrations were created by Maria Yefremova, the artist behind the artwork of Evolution New World. In Evolution Another World, your creatures cannot starve to death or be eaten. There is no fixed number of rounds, and you don't have to count victory points at the end of the game. The first player to transmute 3 of their creatures wins. In this game, you create magical animals and give them various traits. These traits help to defend against aggressive creatures' attacks or use scarce energy more efficiently. Accumulate energy from open sources or attack opponents' creatures, causing them to lose energy, traits, or simply fall asleep. Get closer to victory by transmuting your creatures. Effectively combine the various traits of your creatures to slow down or weaken your opponents. At the end of the round, when all creatures are asleep, you get new cards to improve your animals and a new source of energy. Evolution Another World is a fun game with great replayability and colorful illustrations that will show you the evolutionary process from the other side. Create beings with extraordinary traits and populate this fantasy world. Back this project on Kickstarter.
So my 3 big takeaways from that video and from this version of the game in general are that this new version, your animals can't starve to death and they can't be eaten. So that takes away some of the aggressive nature of the game and the take that element, as well as that level of like, oh, my engine has kind of run off the rails and my animals have starved to death. So all that is different. And I think that kind of leads into the second takeaway, which is that this version is a little bit simpler because it doesn't have some of those mechanics, and a little bit more family friendly. So if you're playing with, younger children and they might become upset by the fact that their animals could be eaten or starved to death, you won't have those elements in this version of the game. And the third thing is that this is, as you could see watching that video, it's a fantasy world. So you're going to be building animals that are fantastical, that are magical in some way. And that's never been the case before, as far as I'm aware, with Evolution. The previous versions of Evolution, including the new version from a year or 2 ago, when that original publisher started working with Crowd Games and did that new version called New World, all of those versions of the game were rooted in science. But in this one, they're taking that new structure that they created with New World, a lot of the similar art, same artist, but they're kind of doing this standalone game that's fantastical, magical creatures in it. Anyway, I think that does a pretty good job of illustrating, what is in the game and how it differs from other versions and other publishers. So if we look at the pledges, we see that we've got a pledge price of $30 for the retail version and $45 for the special edition. If we go down here into the shipping, let's get to the shipping. Here we go. So in the continental US, you're looking at $12 or $18. So that means that the retail version is going to be $42 and the special version is going to be $63. And what say you is the difference between these two versions? Well, let's take a look at that. All right. So this is what you get in the retail version. 1 to 4 player game, plays in about 30 minutes. Shows you the 64 cards you're going to be getting, these evolution cards that you can do things with yourself, some energy source cards, blank energy source cards, player reference, solo mode, these energy tokens, transmutation tokens with plastic stands, sleep tokens, yada yada. Now we get to the special edition. So all of this stuff that follows is going to be Kickstarter exclusive and not included in the retail edition. So we've got more evolution cards, more energy source cards, more of these evolution cards, more of these evolution cards, a 5 to 6 player expansion with 32 more evolution cards, alternative cards, some more energy tokens, player references, and then these, which are not on the retail version, these wooden tokens instead of cardboard, and a wooden first player token instead of cardboard, and then additional stretch goals. So those are the differences between the two games. For my money, I think I like upgraded stuff. And considering, these aren't hugely expensive games, I probably, if I was going to back it, would just go for the special edition. But I think for me personally, I do have Oceans coming. I backed the most recent Kickstarter for that. And I think I personally am more interested in the North Star Games version, or possibly New World, the game that came out from Crowd Games like a year or two ago. I just like things that are a little bit more gamery, and this is a little bit more family friendly. But if you're looking for a family friendly version of Evolution, and you like the idea of having magical and fantastical creatures in your game, then this is definitely a campaign that you should be looking at. Okay, campaign number 3 over here is Monster Hunter World Iceborne, the board game. And this is being published by Steamforged Games. They've made some news lately because they canned about 30 employees a couple of months ago, but they also put out statements saying that they're continuing to grow and that that they're fine and they're healthy. They did just sign a Kickstarter exclusivity agreement, which means they won't have any crowdfunding campaigns for the next 4 games, which I believe includes this one. So this one and 3 more. Everything will be on Kickstarter. It won't be going to Gamefound. And I'm sure that they're getting some kickbacks from Kickstarter for that. So that will help line their pockets a little bit. But that is hopefully good because they have a lot of undelivered games. And depending on who you talk to right now, they'll tell you it's not a worry. But it's never great to have a lot of games sitting in a pipeline while they're launching new campaigns. So here, they did Dark Souls, the board game, Resident Evil 2. I mean, they got off to their start with some games that are maybe not that well regarded. God Tear, which I've heard good things about. Horizon Zero Dawn, the board game, Devil May Cry, Resident Evil 3, Bard Sung, the original Monster Hunter World, the board game, Resident Evil, the board game, RuneScape Kingdoms, Shadow of Elvarg, Epic Encounters, Local Legends. Now, Euthia Resurrected, they're only involved with because the company that originally did Euthia was so ambitious that they ended up going out of business, and Steamforged came along and decided to help them out. So they won't have much to do for Euthia in terms of design and development. They're essentially just helping them financially. But that does, put Steamforge more at risk just in terms of, having to put out money for this game as well. But this isn't designed or developed by them, so it's not a good sign of what their games are like. This is very much a DIA Games game. They've also done Rivet Wars Reloaded and Elden Ring, the board game. So you should just be aware that they do have a lot of expensive projects in the pipeline, games that are still undelivered, and it could possibly down the line lead to a situation like what is happening right now with Mythic Games, where they're, it seems like taking certain money from later campaigns to help finish previous campaigns. And if you don't know what's been going on with Mythic, recently with Siege 6, they basically sent out something to their backers saying, hey, if you don't give us more money, we're just not going to deliver the game to you. And it was like half of what people have already pledged. So if they pledged for a $450 pledge, they're now getting a bill on top of everything they paid previously for $260 more, I think. And if they don't pay that ransom, then they're just never getting the game that they originally put all that money in for. They're just losing that money, which I think is a really shitty thing to do. But that is Mythic Games, not Steamforged. But the reason I'm making the comparison just is that Steamforged Games has been biting off a lot lately, and they've got a lot of really expensive miniature campaigns in the pipeline. And there aren't really any signs that that train is running off the tracks yet. But I think as someone who, if you're watching this right now, if you're considering backing this, you should at least be aware of that. Okay, let's go back to the actual campaign. I'm also not going to show a video for this campaign because this video doesn't really show much. It just shows people, it's like a sizzle reel of people playing the game, but it doesn't really outline what's in the game very well. So I don't think it's a good video or a helpful video to watch. We can see that the funding goal for this was $185,000. They're over $1.5 million. So this campaign's very well funded. It's going to end on June 1st. And let's take a look at the pledges here. Now, this is being run differently than Apex Legends. I have more faith right now in Glass Cannon Unplugged, the company that is publishing Apex Legends, because they have a lot less in the pipeline. So there's a lot of less things pulling at them financially. But Apex Legends did have a lot of pledges, which made it a little complicated to navigate, especially if you're new to crowdfunding or newer to crowdfunding. Monster Hunter isn't doing that. They have a very simple pledge structure. They just have 2 pledges. They have the core box only for $81, and then they have this Hunter's Pledge for $159. Now, the Hunter's Pledge is essentially the all-in, although they do have several things that aren't included in this that you could add on. So there are several items that are not included in any pledge. And it's possible that by the time this gets to the end of its run, around June 1st, they may have more pledges that include all of those things. But for right now, you should just know that if you go all in and you pledge this highest pledge level, you're not getting everything. There's, I think, 3 other things, and we'll take a look at that. So let's scroll down here. Let's keep this core box only pledge up. Actually, let's just go to the shipping first and figure out what that would be. Okay, so shipping for the core box pledge only in the continental US is 20 pounds. 20 pounds is, well, I'm not even sure. Okay, $25, give or take, which means that this pledge level for the continental US backers is going to be about $106. We can also see that 34 pounds is for the Hunter's Pledge. That's $42 US, which means that this pledge is going to be about $201. But remember, this won't include everything. Okay, let's jump back up. Let's take a look at what we're seeing here as far as the pledges themselves go. So there's the core box. That's what you're getting for the core box. And then in the Hunter's Pledge, they're going to add in several more things, right? You can see they've got this extra Kickstarter exclusive box and some more boxes down here. And that's going to end up being the Absolute Power Monster expansion, and then all of the unlocked monsters and all of the other unlocks. Okay, so it's going to be a lot of extra stuff in those boxes, but there's several things that you're not going to be getting. First, though, let's take a closer look at what you're getting in the core game. So the core game has this, right? Which you can hunt monsters, forge weapons, upgrade armor, and complete quests. And it's going to come with all of this stuff that we're seeing. These characters, these monsters, all of these components, these cards. Now, Absolute Power, which is one of the 3 boxes in the Hunter's Pledge, will include this stuff. So we've got new monsters, new weapons, new armor, and new quests beyond what you get in the base game of Iceborne. You're going to have all this new stuff here. And more of these components as well. All right. Now we get into these additional boxes. Exclusive content, will not go to retail, and then they're showing you, what's been unlocked in that, what the stretch goals are. All right, cool. Now as we continue going down, here are the optional add-ons. So these are things that aren't included in any pledge level. We've got Valkana, which is a $67 edition. That's going to get you this big, massive dragon here. You've also got Seething Anger, this monster here. That's another $76 expansion, and the monsters that come with that. Right? And then you've got this Hunter's Arsenal expansion for $43. So this is more stuff too. These are all additional boxes. Now this is separate, and we're going to come back to this in a minute. Because here's the thing. Monster Hunter World Iceborne is kind of like Frosthaven compared to Monster Hunter World being like Gloomhaven, meaning this is a standalone game. So if you have Monster Hunter World, you won't necessarily be able to integrate Iceborne with that. This is not an expansion for Monster Hunter World. It is a standalone game. Now, if you got all of those other 3 items that we just looked at, that's $186. And if we combine that with the all-in and shipping, which was $281, you're looking at $387 for this Hunter's Pledge with shipping if you get all of those 3 optional add-ons. But in addition to that, they have put on 2 add-ons here that are not for Iceborne. These are for Monster Hunter World. So the first one here, Kulu Yaku, is $41. This was featured in the original Monster Hunter World campaign, but it was a Kickstarter exclusive, meaning you can't get it at retail. So if for some reason you have Monster Hunter World, you don't have this, here's another opportunity to get this expansion for it. There was a second expansion that was exclusive with that campaign, and it is not offered here. So this is your opportunity to get one of the 2 expansions that was exclusive for Monster Hunter World. But again, this expansion is not for Iceborne, it is for Monster Hunter World. On top of that, they have included a new expansion for Monster Hunter World that had not been produced before. So this is Azure Rathalos and Black Diablos. It's $41. This is a new expansion for Monster Hunter World, not for Iceborne. So it's a little unique in that they have these 2 Monster Hunter expansions within Iceborne, and these are essentially for a different game system. But just to be aware what they are, and you don't necessarily want to add these things on if you're trying to, do an all-in for Iceborne, unless you also have Monster Hunter World. Okay, so that is the breakdown for this campaign, and I'm not sure if I mentioned it already, but let's take a look. They're planning on delivering this in November of 2024. So that was our 3rd campaign of the video. Our 4th one takes us over to Gamefound, and this is for the Carson City Big Box. Now, this is one of those opportunities where there was a game that came out a while ago. They had some expansions, they had mini expansions and promos, and so they're using this opportunity to put a all collected version of it on crowdfunding and just bring everything, all the little bits and bobs that were available from different places through different promos and things. It's all here. So let's take a look at this video. I think this one's worth watching. Okay.
Quintet Games presents the return of a beloved classic, Carson City. The big box version of this masterpiece is back, and now features a solo mode. Designed by Xavier George, the author of Carnegie, Troyes, and Black Angel, Quintet Games takes you back to the critically acclaimed game in all its big box glory. The much requested reprint of this deluxe edition is finally here and contains both the Gold and Guns expansion, the Horses and Heroes expansion, the different mini expansions and exclusives released over the years, like Father Christmas and the Wooden Houses, Mountains and Guns, but also a brand new solo mode where you will compete against Standish, a fierce new adversary that will test your skills and patience. All this comes packaged in a beautiful big box and is sure to guarantee you countless game nights full of strategy, bluff, and intense moments. Don't miss out on this chance to get this very sought-after classic in a beautiful deluxe package. Support us now on Gamefound.
So in case you didn't catch that, Xavier George is the designer of Troyes and Black Angel, two of his better-known games. Okay, so in this, we've got a few different options. You've got this upgrade pack. This is for people who already own the game, and this will give them some components and things to help kind of upgrade it to a big box version. But it won't include everything. It's not like all of the expansions, all of the promos. If you only have the base game, but you don't have a lot of the little things that came out over the years, this won't include all of them. It will include the new special promo characters, the new solo mode, a new custom insert, revised rulebooks and player aids and things like that. So it doesn't include everything. It's not all encompassing, but it will bring your old version kind of up to the new standard, just without all of the extra expansions and promos. Now, for this price here, this $83 version, this will give you the new version of the game, everything all included, but it is the cardboard edition, meaning a lot of this stuff is like cardboard tokens. This is just a retailer pledge. And then this is kind of like the all-in version, the wood pack edition, $105. and that's going to include wooden pieces for a lot of the components instead of just tokens. Down here, well, here's a Carnegie Deluxe Edition if you just wanted to get that game added on. And this is a really good game. I recommend it. They've also got metal coins and a round marker for $44. This is not included with any of the pledges, so if this is something that you want, you'll need to add it on. This is also a Gamefound exclusive, so it won't be included if you find this later at retail. Now here, they've got the solo expansion pack. They've got like a lot of the new promos, promo character bundle. So if you don't have any of these, I recommend getting the bundle instead of these. You've got custom combat dice, you've got the wooden upgrade pack, you've got some language packs, the cardboard upgrade pack. This is for people who get the wooden version, but still want the cardboard stuff. You know, if you just kind of want to have everything for whatever reason, because the cardboard components I don't think are going to be included in the version that comes with the wood upgrade pack. But these are a lot of things that you can kind of add on if you want certain extras, but not everything. Now, if we go down here into shipping, we can see that in the US, you're looking at probably about 12 euros for this. It says up to one game. And these prices are if you're getting, it's by weight, but these prices are if you're getting multiple games. So anything that you are pledging through this, it probably is going to be 12 euros in shipping, which is, I'm going to say $13. So that means that if we go back up to these prices, it's going to be $41 continental US with shipping for the upgrade. About $95, maybe $96 for the cardboard version, and then about $107, $108 for the version with the wooden components. And we didn't do this from the start, so let's go ahead and take a look at this. The funding goal in this project was $43,000. They're currently at $129,000, so they're doing really well. This is going to fund, it's going to happen. The campaign will end on June the 14th. And they're targeting February 2024 to deliver this. That brings us to our final campaign of the week. This is the one of all of the games in this video. I said this last video as well because I had a game where I felt similarly, but this is the game that I am the least sure about. And the reason is this is a first-time publisher, first-time designer. Everything about this is first-time only. So there's not much that we can go and look at and say, well, what did this designer do in the past? Or what did this publisher put out in the past? This is it. This is the first time for all of this, which definitely brings in a higher level of risk, right? They're going to be dealing with production chains and delivery chains and things they haven't done before. And so problems may crop up and they do not have a history dealing with those problems because they haven't produced a game before or run a crowdfunding platform for a game before. I also think in terms of gameplay, this looks a lot like The Wolves, which came out within the last year from Pandasaurus Games. And because it's such a grab bag of components and mechanics, it also reminds me a little bit of the deluxe version of Netatonka that came out several years ago. But we'll take a look at this. You can see what the video shows you, and then we'll look at the pledge prices. But keep in mind, like I said, there are things about this that excite me. It could be a good Euro. It's a little hard to tell not having played it and seeing how mechanics work together and if they create really good synergy or not. But I think you just need to go into this knowing that, while it could be a really new and exciting Euro, and the theme is certainly enticing, at least to me, I think it looks pretty cool. I can't verify, the gameplay on this, having so little to go on at this point. But the funding goal here, about $20,000. They're at $43,000, so it is funded, and the campaign is going to end on June 14th. And as we can see down here, they are targeting December 2023, so the end of this year to deliver. Let's take a quick look at the video, and then we'll check out those pledges.
In a world shrouded in mystery, where cunning and strategy reign supreme, prepare to embark on an unforgettable journey. Face your destiny. Hunt, mark, and explore vital territories. Gather the needed resources and meet your objectives. Ensure the survival of your pack. Discover the tunnels of your den. Grow your pack of kits. Develop your offspring's instincts and increase your capacities. Welcome to the realm of Ruse, instincts of the den. Want to be part of something extraordinary? Follow Ruse on Kickstarter now.
So they've got a lot of really cool things, I think, component-wise in there that look really neat. I always like, the screen-printed tokens, double-layer player boards, stuff like that. And the theme looks pretty cool to me. But, like we said, it's from an unknown publisher and an unknown designer. So here is what we're looking at in terms of pledge levels for this. You've got $89, and that is for the game with all stretch goals, as well as this additional game. It's a roll and write, and they're giving you a print and play version, meaning they're not going to be sending you a second game, a physical copy of a game. It's probably going to be files. And then it also comes with this Firefox mini expansion. If we look at the higher pledge levels, this one is simply for multiple copies of the game, and then there's a retailer's pledge, and then there is this collector's pledge for a prototype copy that's really expensive, which means if you're thinking about pledging this, you're pretty much looking at this one right here, Instinct, $89. So let's take a look down through some of the content of the campaign. We can see you're getting sitting fox meeples, standing fox meeples, these fox heads, all of the dice, the player boards, all this stuff. This is literally like one copy of the game. There's also a solo mode, and then the exclusive here is this mini expansion called Firefox. So this will not be included in retail copies, and if this is something you want, then you want to pledge this campaign. Okay. They just kind of go through the various mechanics here, determining turn order. There's like a collection phase. Then you take your actions, use growth points. So you can be leveling up your abilities a little bit and building an engine. And they talk about the various mechanics in the game, including dice management, tile drafting and placement, resource management, various objectives you're trying to fulfill, worker placement, engine building, it's kind of big, in general, and then asymmetric player powers. All of this stuff is great. These are all the things that I like in games, and if they pull it together and the design is really solid, this could be a great game. Okay, so shipping here in the US is $25, which is going to bring this pledge up to $114, which is, in my mind, it's a little bit on the expensive side. But you do have nice components in there, but there is this big unknown because it's a first-time publisher, first-time designer. So there is a little bit of a risk in this, and this is the kind of game where you might expect to find this at half that price at retail, but then that price would likely not include these kinds of deluxe components, although that's the only version of this game being produced. So we'll have to see in the future where this goes, if this company makes more games and starts doing retail versions, or if they just do these very deluxe versions and their games are more crowdfunding only. But I just felt like this was something that I had to pass along because there's definitely some promise to what they're showing us here. Okay. And this is going to deliver in December 2023. So that is the fifth and final campaign of the video. Thank you very much for joining me today. Let me know in the comments if any of these campaigns are things that you personally are thinking of backing, and if any of them were new to your ears. I imagine people who are kind of monitoring crowdfunding and know publishers, know board games and video games, maybe you knew about Apex Legends and Monster Hunter World Iceborne, but maybe you didn't know about Ruse, or maybe you weren't aware of the new version of Carson City. So I'm always curious to hear feedback from people and just what they were aware of before they watched the video, and if the video helped bring any campaigns to their attention that they weren't aware about in the past. Now, in closing, I'd like to say one thing about the coming weeks. which is that I will be on a 1-week anniversary trip starting Tuesday through Tuesday. That means that I won't be putting out a video next week, and rather than combining that content along with the following week's content into one big video, I think what I'm going to do is that when I get home around the 6th of June, I will kind of catch up with work, and then I'll put out a video for the previous week, and then within a couple days you'll get a second video, which will be that week's video. So kind of like what happened this week when I was running behind and 2 videos got posted fairly close together, that will happen again in about a week and a half, 2 weeks time. You'll get the video that will catch up from next week, and then you'll get the following week's video. Unfortunately, that means that I will not be able to cover or include the new family box of Escape, and that is on Kickstarter. So if you like Escape from Queen Games and that's something you might be interested in, you might want to go check that out on Kickstarter. Unfortunately, it's a shorter campaign, and by the time I get back from my trip, that campaign will already be done. It'll be completed. But that campaign didn't launch in the period that I'm covering right now. It's the period that I would be covering next week. So I can't cover that game. There are 3 other games that I'm pretty sure will make the list. The Last Spell is on Kickstarter, and that's up right now. There's a new expansion pack for Age of Steam that is on Gamefound, that is also up right now. And then finally there is a spin-off game for Lagrange called El Burro that is also on Gamefound. So those 3 games I'm pretty sure that I'll be covering in that first video that'll hit in like 2 weeks time, but it'll be running a week late and covering content that was launched the week before. So I'll be covering probably those 3 games as well as everything that launches this coming Tuesday. And we'll have to find out what that is when that video hits in about 2 weeks time. The one thing that I will say about El Burro is that that campaign is being run by Spielworks, and it's being run out of Europe. And that means that they don't have any partner in the Western Hemisphere, and so shipping to the US is fairly expensive. It's going to be, I think, $25. It may even be 25 euros, and so, you know, $27, $28. But it's going to be $25 or euros for a game that's like $50. So the shipping is going to be pretty big proportionally to the cost of the game. This is exactly the same thing that happened for Oranienburger Kanal, which was a new Uwe Rosenberg game that just recently delivered. Spielworks also ran that campaign on Gamefound as well. So if you're aware of that campaign and the high shipping costs to the United States, just know that that is going to be the exact same situation for El Burro. And I just want people to know that ahead of time so that they don't get all excited and go to back it and maybe don't notice the shipping and are caught unaware or are surprised by the shipping. So that campaign for El Burro is going to have very large shipping charges in comparison to the cost of that game. But I will be talking about that game along with the Age of Steam expansions and The Last Spell and anything that launches this coming Tuesday in that video. Have a great 2 weeks. Play lots of great games, and take care. I'll see you soon.